What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Half and Foot. This is your host, Danny, also known as Wanny, and welcome to a podcast that is strictly about the hottest takes of the beautiful game of football. And yes, today we do have a double upload due to the fact that yesterday was Thanksgiving and I didn't have enough time to upload content. But we're back, and we all know what time it is. It's World Cup season, baby. Let's get it. And today we will be giving a short recap, and I will be sharing my reactions and opinions to the games that occurred on day 6 of the World Cup. And the games that we witnessed today were Iran versus Wales, Senegal versus Qatar, Netherlands versus Ecuador, and the revolutionary battle of the USA versus England. So let's dive right into it. The first game of day 6 was Wales versus Iran, and Wales is headed into this game with 1 point after the draw with the USA in their opening group match. Meanwhile, Iran went into this game with 0 points after they got destroyed and humiliated by England 6-2. So if either side wanted to stake a claim for a spot in the last 16, they needed a win today. And when all was said and done, Iran picked up the 3 points, surprisingly, because a lot of people counted them out after their horrible loss to England, and they left Wales' qualification hopes in shattered glasses. Iran scored 15 minutes in. However, it was ruled out for offside, but that disallowed goal allowed Iran to grow into the game, and they were holding Wales back and keeping them in their own half, and Iran was creating few chances. And it looked like Iran wanted it a lot more. However, they weren't able to find the opener in the first half. And within the first 5 minutes, Iran came out crazy. Iran hit the woodwork twice, 5 minutes into the second half. And they even forced Wayne Hennessy into an amazing save as well. And even with Wales having substitutions and trying to reestablish themselves, Iran kept applying pressure, and they did not stop. You can easily tell that they wanted it more. But Wales' hopes of securing a point were then dealt a major blow after Wayne Hennessy was sent off after rushing out of his box and kneeing an Iran player in the head. And without a doubt, that was a red card. And on top of that, Wales was already trying to win the game also. So they did have attacking players on the pitch and a more offensive-minded team. So when the red card came, it was hard for them to reestablish themselves as a defensive team. And, that affected them a lot. And in the 98th minute, Iran sucker punched Wales to snatch the 3 points by scoring a goal after Joe Allen's poor clearance was met by an Iranian player whose low shot beat Danny Ward from outside the box. However, that wasn't it. Iran broke all of the Welsh hearts when they added a second goal, literally 2 minutes after the first one. And Wales were just caught on a counter. And after that, it was over for Wales. Iran secured 3 points, and they're now second in the group. So it's going to be interesting to see how Iran plays against the U.S. They just surprised Wales, and the U.S. only has 2 points, so it's going to be a battle for second place. The second game of day 6 was Senegal versus Qatar, and we all know that Senegal has a chance and the potential to compete in this World Cup. Although they lost to Netherlands 2-0, they had to come into this match with a full head of steam. They needed to put on a good performance in order to survive in this group. And we all know that Qatar had a pretty poor performance against Ecuador, but it was Senegal who dominated the first half, and they enjoyed their share of possession as well as attempts. And the hosts only had 2 shots, which none of them were on target. And the first real bit of action actually fell the way of Qatar after they were denied a strong shot for a penalty. Qatar felt like they deserved a penalty after one of their players was tripped in the penalty area. However, it wasn't given, and it was just unfortunate for them. But Senegal then finally found a breakthrough just before the break, as one of the Qatari defenders actually slipped and gifted Boulaya Dia the opening goal. The defender lost his footing in the box, and the ball ricocheted off of him, and it literally just fell into the path of Dia, who just struck the ball and put it into the back of the net. And Dia has been playing pretty good for Villarreal, so, he can't just be given those chances. And sometimes it happens, you lose your footing, but it was a terrible mistake for Qatar. Then right after the restart, Senegal was able to double their lead. And, it just showed that Senegal was levels ahead of Qatar. But then one of Qatar's players got on the end of a corner after making a darting run to the near post, and he was able to head that ball into the net, and they scored a header. And, Qatar produced their first ever World Cup goal, and at least they can say that they didn't leave the World Cup without a goal. But then the Senegalese players then put the game to bed, and, they were able to claim a crucial 3 points, and the final result was 3-1. And after this game, Senegal remains in contention to qualify for the next stage, but it's definitely going to come down to their last game against Ecuador, which is going to be a hell of a game. But, as far as Qatar, they were the first hosts to actually be eliminated within the first 2 games, and they become only the second ever host to not make it into the playoffs or the knockout stages. So it was a sad tournament for them, but at least they scored their goal. The third game of day 6 was Ecuador versus Netherlands. Ecuador being South American underdogs and Netherlands being European giants. Netherlands actually had the chance to become the first nation to qualify for the knockout stage this year, but that was only if they got a victory over Ecuador, and this game actually resulted in a 1-1 draw. Due to the fact that they drew and Senegal got a victory over Qatar, Group A is actually back into heavy contention, because now we see that these 3 nations have it all to play for on the final day of the group stages. So it's going to be very interesting to watch those games, as all these teams need very, very good results. But full credit should be given to the Ecuadorian national team, who didn't give up and fought their way to a draw, even after going down 1-0 just 6 minutes into the game, after Cody Gakpo from PSV Eindhoven, he just had a very good strike and the ball went in. But, the 23-year-old just found himself in enough space just outside the area, and he was able to unleash a bullet into the top corner. But, a lot of people may have thought that this was Netherlands' chance to actually be dominant in this game, because they did have to improve after their match against Senegal. Honestly, the Netherlands didn't really put on a spectacular performance against the African team. So, a lot of people thought this was their time to revitalize. But Ecuador had other plans, and their talisman, Enner Valencia, popped up once again in service of his country just 4 minutes after the second half started. And we all know the poacher he is, and he actually had a finish from very close range after Netherlands goalkeeper spilled the ball into his path. But, Ecuador remained on the front foot for the remainder of the match. And in my opinion, they dominated Netherlands. They were able to take 15 shots. Although not all of them were on target, Netherlands really only had 2 shots overall. And Ecuador could have even taken the lead when Gonzalo Plata hit the woodwork after an amazing effort from outside the box. However, there are some concerns as far as Valencia, because he was removed from the game just before full time due to an injury. And it's very concerning because he was stretchered off the pitch, which shows that it could be something serious. But this is definitely a performance that Ecuador should be immensely proud of. And honestly, all they need now is just a draw to advance to the next round. But this last day is going to be very intriguing because they are going to have a clash against the reigning African champions. And by no means will this be an easy match. In my opinion, Ecuador is becoming a dark horse in this tournament, but their fate will depend on their match against Senegal and Netherlands' performance against Qatar. So the last day of this group is going to be extremely exciting to watch. The last game of Day 6 of the World Cup was the revolutionary battle of England versus USA. And we talked about how there would be memes surfacing the internet. And one of my favorite memes that actually got a chuckle out of me was this meme where a United States soldier was RKOing a British soldier. And it was just so funny to me that they incorporated Randy Orton's finishing move from the WWE. And surprisingly, it got me to laugh a little. But laughs and jokes aside, this was a very underwhelming display on behalf of Gareth Southgate's England. And they just had to settle to share the points with the U.S. But England had marked their return to action when they destroyed Iran. And a lot of us were thinking of them as a very promising team for this World Cup. But after this game, it shows that they have to go back to the drawing board. Because we literally thought that that game was going to inspire them to keep playing that way. But it didn't happen. And when it was all said and done, England came crashing back down to earth. And perhaps the U.S. brought them back to reality. But as far as this clash, I think the U.S. enjoyed the better of things. In my opinion, the U.S. played better. Their youth, although they're young, they have all the energy in the world to run the midfield, to run all over the pitch. And one of their closest chances came through Christian Pulisic from Chelsea. And he took a shot that came off the crossbar. And the crossbar was left rattling at around the half-hour mark. But that was pretty much the closest chance throughout the whole match. But to me, one of the best players on the pitch today was Tyler Adams, who plays for Leeds United. And he is displaying as to why he is the captain at such a young age. He runs all over the pitch. He was winning almost every 50-50. He was intercepting a lot of passes. And most importantly, he has those qualities that can't be measured in statistics. You know, he's a natural-born leader. He leads the team. He communicates with his teammates. He organizes the team. And those are qualities that you cannot measure, you know. There's no stat for that. And it's something that you can only observe when you actually watch him play. And in my opinion, I think the U.S. is a number 9 away from actually being a very, very good team. They're not that clinical in front of goal. And to be honest, they might not be the best this World Cup, but they're definitely showing a lot of potential for the next World Cup in a few years. That's going to be in the U.S. So it's going to be interesting to see how this team grows together. You know, this World Cup will be a lot of experience for them, or they will gain a lot of experience from this World Cup. But it's going to be interesting to see how they develop. And by the next World Cup, I can see them being very, very dangerous. However, this result means that England remains top of the group and Wales is in last. They could pretty much pack their bags and go home. I'm sorry, but, you know, the United States' fate is very much in their own hands because they know that a victory over Iran next Tuesday could see them march on as group runners-up. So this next match for the U.S. is going to be super important. But I'll leave y'all with one little detail, and that's the fact that the U.S. is undefeated against England in World Cups. And, you know, British fans all over the world make fun of the U.S. for calling football soccer. But in the end of the day, it is becoming more popular. But most importantly, the skill here in the U.S. is improving as well. And you can notice that with this national team. So it's going to be interesting to see this nation develop. But at the same time, it's going to be even more interesting to watch that Iran versus U.S. game. They're going to go at it. Iran is inspired. And the U.S. needs this victory in order not to flop. But, you know, that's all I have for this episode of High Off and Food. This is your host, Danny, also known as Wanny. It's World Cup season, baby. Let's get it.